Hi, everybody. Okay, I got to get my screen up here so I can see what's going on. There we go. So hopefully people can find me tonight. Oh, a few people have. Cool. Make sure you say something when you come in so I know you can hear me okay. I'll type something too. So make sure you type something when you come in so I know. Oh, hi, Denise. People are coming in. Hi, Teresa. How is everybody tonight? Isn't it a beautiful day? Hi, Melanie. Hi, Marianne. Hi, Garnet. Oh, my goodness. More people are coming in. I can't see. Just a second. Oh, Jerry. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Debbie. So is everybody ready to cut a little fabric on the scan and cut? Okay, for those of you coming in, make sure you say something so I know. Oh, hi, Pat. Hi, Artie. Sound is good? Good. You know, actually, I think after they've got the bugs worked out and after I figured out what to do, I think the interface for the live, I think the video's better. Don't you think the video's clear? And I apologize for my hair. I cannot wait to get my hair cut. I have to wait another week yet. It's awful. Oh, my hair hasn't been this long for a really long time. Hi, Jody, Sharon, Pat. Oh, hi, Penny. All kinds of folks here. Hi, Deb. So is everybody hearing me okay? So I went up to see my dad today, and I actually took him in the car out to the cemetery to decorate at my mother's grave. We didn't do it last weekend because we didn't know what the weather was doing. By the time I got there, it was raining, so we went out today, and we actually rode in the same car. We both had our masks on. And then next week, and then we went for a ride through the park, and then we walked over to the neighbors together. So I actually got to like see my father today, so it was very exciting. I got his groceries, and then next week we're gonna go. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next week, but then the following week is Father's Day, and I'm going to have dinner with him. So I'm going to go inside, I'm going to take my mask off, and I'm going to have dinner with my dad. So I've been waiting for that. So how's everybody doing? There's a bunch of you in here already. So we'll wait just a few minutes. I had a lot of people say they were coming, so we'll wait a few minutes. Hi, Marcia. Hi, Judy. Hi, Mary. I know, don't you just hate the whole hair thing with the, I had to go to a new hairdresser, so, you know, I knew I was going to have to wait no matter what I did, and it took me 3 weeks to get in, so my hair place closed right before, you know, this whole mess started, so I didn't have a hairdresser anymore, so I knew I was going to have to wait. Hi, Jackie. How is everybody tonight? So I've been working on, I just wanted to tell you a couple things. Thank you for answering the poll. So it looks like people, oh, you got to hug your grandkids. I know, isn't it something that you're looking forward to? I just want to hug my dad. So I've been working on the fabric, and I've emailed the company, and so they have, from what I understand, they have a kit for We Wish You a Merry Christmas and for Vintage Boardwalk. So I'm hoping that I can get like pre-assembled kits for you for We Wish You a Merry Christmas. So I have to get a little more information, and then I will get that out to you. I'm going to have in June, I'm going to add a talk about We Wish You a Merry Christmas so that we can talk about a little bit about how to read the book and how to cut the fabrics and stuff before the July class starts. So I'll get that scheduled. I haven't decided. It's going to be like during a weeknight probably. Oh, hi Cheryl. Hi Lori. Hi Barb. Oh, Colleen's here. Hi Colleen. And so I've been working on that, and then also let's see. The next week will be the software class, and we're going to do the red work. And so I've got another red work project done, so I can show you two. I've been really enjoying making red work. So got that done. Oh, hi, Barbara. That's right. You're from Colorado, aren't you? Yeah, you're new. You haven't. I don't think you've come to any classes, or maybe only one or two. That's cool. Hi, Mitzi. All right. So, and then let's see, what else have we been working on? And then we're going to have Kimberbell Club starting in June. Lynn and I wanted to do it in June. And it's going to be the third Saturday of the month, but for the start of it, at least, we'll be doing it online on Zoom. So be watching your email. I'm going to put all the information out about that this week. Lynn and I have Kimberbell School, the Academy School, tomorrow and Tuesday. So we'll be doing that for 2 days, and then we'll be certified so that we can also do the Kimberbell events. So that will be fun. So they have these really cute events, and those can also be done online. So I'll probably be doing classes online for a while because I'm not sure how comfortable people will be coming into my small classroom, because we can't social distance very well in my classroom. It's very small. So anyway, be watching your email this week. The Kimberbell Club stuff will be coming up for June, and then how do we sign up for the club? Mitzi, what I'll do is I'll send out an email about it, and then I'm going to put up the sign-up stuff on the website. So you can just go to the website and pay. What I'm going to do for Kimberbell Club will be, you can either pay monthly if you want to, and it's $10 a month, or if you want to pay for the whole year, it's $99. And that'll be 12 classes. It's cheaper if you do the whole year, but if you don't want to do the whole year and you just want to do the classes you want, you can just do it monthly and pay $10 each time. So, okay? All right, so those are the things we're working on right now anyway. For next week, we're going to do the software class. And then the following week, 2 weeks, is going to be the little Kimberbell table runner, that cute little table runner. So I'm going to show you how to make it, and then I'm going to show you how to quilt it on the embroidery machine with the Design Center. So I know, because not all of you have a machine with Design Center in it, but a lot of you do. So that's how I quilt them, and I wanted to show you again how to do that. So, but tonight we're going to do some cutting. So last time we cut fabric, you want to pay by the year, Mitzi? That's fine. So yes, I'll be putting it on the website, but you have to give me till like Wednesday or Thursday, okay? I have class for 2 days, and then I won't be at the store till Wednesday. So, but I'll do it this week, definitely this week. Okay, so last time when we cut fabric, we talked more about like cutting our appliques for our machine embroidery. And I'm going to turn this camera around here in a second. And this time we're going to talk more about traditional applique, or like permanent bonded applique, something that you would have a printed pattern to make the applique pieces from, okay? So I've got a couple of options here. So like a lot of you like to do machine applique, traditional machine applique, that you would have a printed paper pattern, and then you can still cut all your pieces from that. I like to do permanent bond applique, and so I've got some samples here, and I'll show you. So I'm just going to show you a few things first, and show you the things that we're going to do. So let me turn the camera around here. All right. So whoops, here. The kink is in the wrong spot. There we go. Okay. So what we're going to do today, I've got some things. These are permanent bond. I do a lot of this permanent bond type applique. I don't like to stitch around it with the sewing machine, so I like to use permanent bond. So this is one of the things I'm going to show you tonight. I'm going to cut out this tree, and you can see how intricate that tree is. This is a pattern called Mystic Pine from a gal in Dyersville, Iowa, and the name of her website is Fabrications by Doris. And she has really lovely landscapes and stuff, and I just love doing her stuff because all of her stuff is hand-drawn. And then what I'm going to show you what I do with her stuff tonight. But this is one of the things that I am going to show you this evening. And let me show you what it looks like done. I'm going to lay my pattern over here. Sorry, you may hear my cat. She decided to join me. Okay, so this is the picture all done and framed. I'll pull this back just so that you can see it. Okay, so this was really fun to do. It's not real super big. It's about 8 by 10. And it was done all cut, and then this is permanent bonded. So this is, I'm using a bonding agent. I'm using Heaton Bond, but I used Heaton Bond Ultra. Okay, so that's one of the things we're going to cut tonight. So if you're doing traditional machine applique on something that you're going to drive around it with the sewing machine, then you would use Heaton Bond Light because you sew through that. Okay, so I've got Ultra on my fabric tonight, but if you're doing something that you're going to put on a quilt, you would be sewing through it. You would use Heaton Bond Light for that. So this is Ultra. Okay, so there's one of the things I wanted to show you. Then I've done a couple of these other pieces these are really fun, these seasonal silhouettes. And this is Ada Satara, and she does a lot of beautiful things, and a lot of them are like landscapey and nature looking in this book. So I've done some of these as well, done the same way as the Mystic Pine. Oops, there's my tree. But here's one of hers. I've got a couple of hers done. So this one is one of the ones I've done. Now this one is not permanent bonded, so I'm going to have to drive around this one with the sewing machine to hold it down. That's the way she normally does it. This one I did with the permanent bond, so I don't have to do that. So this was January. It's got the little ice skates. And this was all cut out on the scan and cut, and how I'm going to do this will be the way you would do this kind of thing. So this one is permanent bonded, and so I'm not going to drive around this one with the sewing machine. I'm not going to sew it down. So there's a couple of those. Here's another one of Doris's designs. This one's called something about Starry Night or something like that. It's a wilderness one. So this one's going to be for my dad, actually. And then I did this fall one. I'm not quite finished with it yet. It's pretty, but I haven't got the leaves on it. I have to cut the leaves out yet. But this one's also permanent bonded. So I did the whole thing that I did this whole thing with the method that I'm going to show you tonight. Okay. So this also works for if you're using a quilt pattern that you have an applique design that you need to stitch down to the quilt. So this is the same way. You would have a piece of paper, with the pattern on it, and then we can scan it into the machine. So let me get these done, and I'm going to fold this down so I have a little more room to work here. I always keep them in there so I don't get them all messed up. Okay. So what we're going to do is first we're going to talk a little bit about the mats and stuff, because we did that before. And we want to use a mat just for fabric. Now this is my low tack mat. This is the kind of light blue one. And I have one of those high tack adhesive sheets, those really super sticky sheets that came with your scan and cut. There's 2 of them. And I have more on order. I know some of you are waiting. I've got a bunch of them on order, so they should be here this week. But these are super sticky because you've got to have that super stickiness to hold the fabric so that it won't scoot around your mat. So if you've ever tried to cut fabric without this high-tech adhesive sheet, it just does not work because the fabric just scoots all over the mat. Okay? So that's my mat. I'm using my low-tack mat with that high-tack adhesive sheet on it. Now, I had a couple people call me last week that were having a little problems with their high-tack adhesive sheets wanting to come off. That means your mat's probably not quite sticky enough anymore. So take that Zig 2-way glue pen that we've talked about before. I think I've got it right here. So that Zig 2-way glue pen, and stick that mat up before you put your next sheet on. So this 2-way glue pen, it's Zig, and I get these like at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Okay. So, and there is a video on the group already about how to clean your mats, how to restick them. So if you need to put one of those high-tack adhesive sheets on and it's not sticking very well, just go ahead and give your mat a good stick, and then see, mine's really nice and stuck again. Because mine was getting like that, so the last time I did it, I restuck my mat, and it sticks on very, very well now. Okay? So that's what I'm using, and I've got that high-tack adhesive sheet on my low-tack mat, and then I've marked it fabric. That's the only thing I use this mat for, okay? The other mat that we're going to use tonight, often when I do these kind of patterns that I need to scan something, I like to use my scanning mat because there's no stickum on this, and I had a catastrophe with one of Doris's designs. I accidentally stuck my pattern piece that I paid for from her on the high-tack adhesive sheet, and there was no saving it, so I had to buy a whole new pattern to get it back. So I now almost always use the scanning mat so that I don't have to worry about damaging one of my nice patterns, okay, because we're going to do some scanning. Okay. Now let's talk just a little bit about the blades. I have to turn my page back. I got out of whack here. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the blades. So we're going to use two different blades tonight. Normally when I cut fabric with a bonding agent, this is for the newer machines. This is the black blade with the standard blade, or the auto blade, standard auto blade, and the blade holder, okay? So normally when I cut fabric, I have one that I just cut fabric with. So I bought another blade holder and another blade that I just used for fabric. So we're going to cut one piece with this tonight, which is what we did last time, the whole thing. The other thing that we're going to cut tonight is we're going to learn how to cut fabric without a bonding agent. And we're going to talk about that because for that little table runner that we're going to make in a couple weeks, this little table runner, see these cute little tumblers? I love tumblers. See the little tumblers? I'm going to cut those tumblers out tonight, and I don't want any bonding agent on those. Yes, I do, Teresa, have scanning mats at the store. They make a 12 by 12 and a 12 by 24. But I want to cut these little tumblers out, but I don't want any Heaton bond on them because it'll make them too stiff. So you can cut fabric without a bonding agent, and that's what I've done here by using something called Terrial Magic. This is a very, very heavy starch. I have this at the store. The bottle doesn't look like this anymore. I bought this a while ago, so my bottle looks different. But what it does, and I don't know if you can tell can you see how stiff this fabric is? It makes the fabric almost like paper. It's so stiff. So regular starch is not stiff enough. This stuff works wonderful for cutting fabric without a bonding agent on it, without Heaton bond, okay? So I've got my squares all prepared over here, and we're going to cut out those little tumblers. So that's the other project we're going to do. When we cut those types of fabrics without anything on it, we're going to use that other blade that came with your machine. This is the tan blade, and it has a different blade in it. It's got a 35-degree blade in it. The other one is a 60-degree blade. So we're going to use this one to cut the fabric without the Heaton bond. We use the black one with the Heaton bond. So we're going to use both of these tonight. Okay? For those of you with the older machines, for both of your fabrics that we're going to cut tonight, you will use your standard blade for both of those. That's the teal colored one. Okay? So you'll use the same blade for both of the pieces of fabric. Okay, are there any questions about the blades and the mats? Does that make sense to everybody? It's kind of a review from last time because we're using the same stuff, but we are going to add another blade in here tonight. Okay? I have to wait a little bit for everybody to answer, so. All right, I've got to find all my stuff here in a second. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we are going to scan. So this is my pattern that came out of the Mystic Pine. Okay, so this is the pattern for the tree. And I wanted to do something a little more complicated so you could see how well the machine actually scans and traces. And then we can clean it up right in the machine. Okay, so that you can see this is pretty intricate. And we're gonna scan this into the machine. So that's how I start. So like a lot of other applique patterns, quilt patterns, will have a page that looks like this. Now this particular lady, again, her name's Doris. It's fabricationsbydoris.com. If you have the older style, would you buy 2 of them? Yes, Penny, I do have. This is my fabric blade. I kept it because I had bought a separate one. It's nice to have a separate blade and blade holder so that you don't have to switch the blade back and forth. It was just a nuisance, so that's why I always did that. So yes, I had a separate teal blade and blade holder for fabric. Okay. But, so like when you're getting your pattern, yes, that is normal, Colleen, for your sticky mat to get shredded, because that's just a plastic and you will cut through it. You have to, you use it until it's like really bad. And then I use like a little small paint scraper, like the ones that have the little razor blades in them. Scrape it off the mat, clean the mat really well, sometimes re-stick my mat, and then put a new adhesive tack sheet on. So yes, you do wear them out. You have to replace them. Okay? So this is my piece of paper that came with my applique. Now, I happen to know this particular gal always mirrors them. Remember, we cut the fabric, fabric down? She mirrors her patterns in the pattern. So you'll need to read your pattern instructions to see if they're already mirrored. You may not have to mirror them in the machine. We did that last time because we were working from the front. This one also, like the seasonal silhouettes, this gal also mirrors her designs in the book. So when I get ready, like these pictures here, these are already mirrored, so I don't have to mirror them again. Okay? So just read your instructions, and they normally will tell you in your directions if it's already mirrored. Okay, so I won't have to do anything extra to this one. We're just going to scan it in like this. Because as you can see, I cut it out. Can you see how it's mirrored? You can tell by the bottom here, it's easier to tell. But see how how it's the opposite direction? So I cut it like this. Okay, and then when it's right side up, it's this way. Okay? So, got to get my page turned so I get this in order so I don't get everybody mixed up. So we talked a little bit about blades and mats. I'm going to talk again just a little bit about how I prepared my fabric. So like this particular one is one that I'm going to do a permanent bond. So I have applied Heaton bond to this, but it's a different one than what we used last time. Last time we used Heaton bond light because I was going to be sewing or embroidering through those pieces we did, the little stars. This time I'm not going to do that. I am going to permanently bind this. So this is called Heaton Bond Ultra. Okay? So I use this quite a bit because I like to do these pictures. The Heaton Bond Light is for if you're going to sew through it. You would also use this if this is like a traditional machine applique that you're going to be driving around your pattern pieces yourself with the sewing machine. Okay? So that's what I did for the tree, is I put Heaton Bond Ultra on it. So that's how I did this tree. Then, again, when I was ready for my tumblers, I don't want any bonding agent. See, this is just fabric. I didn't want any bonding agent on this because I'm going to sew these. And after a while, they get softer, and if you wash them, all the starch, the Terrio Magic comes out. So that's the stuff. This is what I put on these, is this Terrio Magic. Okay? So I prepared those with Terrio Magic. And what you do is you get it really wet with the Terrio Magic, and then wring them out, then let them dry for about 15 minutes, and then you iron it with a hot iron with no steam, and it makes them just like paper. Okay? So that's how I prepared my fabric for these two different things. This is going to be my bonded tree, and then these have no bonding agent on them. Okay? All right, so let's go over to the machine now. Got to get my mat out here. I always think this table's plenty big enough, but it always doesn't seem to be big enough. So here's we're going to put the tree in first. So let's do this one first. I'm going to put this in my scanning mat, and see there's no stickum, there's just this little flip that holds everything down. So I've got my design in there, or my paper in there. Let's turn this around so you can see it. I think my scanning cut went to sleep too, so I got to touch the button. The scanning cut's always hard to do because it's hard for me to know where to put the camera. The camera, I need to move it over a little bit because it's not far enough away from the machine. Okay. So I am going to load this mat into the machine. I'm going to hit my little load button, and I've got my hand spread out in front of the roller right here. And I'm going to hit my load button, and we're going to load that mat. And this is the standing mat. And you can get a scan. There's two scanning mats. There's a 12 by 12 and a 12 by 24 for any of the dealer machines. So like the 550, the 650s, the 225s, and the 230Ds. They all have the ability to scan 24 inches also. So if you have a really big applique, you can do that. If you have one of the mass market machines, like the 125, the 350, those can only scan 12 by 12. So you can use the 12 by 12 scanning mat for those, okay? Because I know there's a couple of you that have the other machines. Okay, so, oh, Margaret made it. Hello, Margaret. Okay, so one of the things that I said on here, I kind of made a little note to myself, that sometimes I'll take and make a photocopy of my original pattern, so I have some leeway with it, and often I'll go through like with whiteout, and I'll white out some of this extraneous junk that I don't want, like these words and different things, because sometimes it makes it hard to scan it. But I wanted to show you that I can get rid of these, so I'm going to show you how that I can actually get rid of these things in the machine. So sometimes I'll do that. I'll just make a photocopy of what I'm trying to scan, and then I can get rid of some of the stuff I don't want. Okay? Makes it a little bit faster. But this one I just left it so you could see what I was going to do. Okay. So we have to scan this. We want to scan it, so I'm going to hit scan. And we're going to hit scan to cut data, because I want to cut this out of something besides this piece of paper that I'm scanning right now. It's not what so I would choose this one if I would direct cut, if I was going to cut it out of this piece of paper on this mat, which I'm not doing. So I'm going to make it my own data. So I'm going to scan to cut data. There are a couple of options. You can use there's a recognition mode for black and white and one for color. So if you hit the little wrench, here's the black and white or color. In this case, it's black and white, so I'm going to leave it on the black and white. You use the color if you're doing something that would be layered, like maybe something that had 3 or 4 colors, and then they would be layered on top of each other. So that's when you would use that. Okay? I'm going to hit start. And start again, and then this is going to scan. Got to get my paper out of here so you can see what I'm doing. So this is a way, you know, I've bought a lot of these kind of patterns, and this is how I do them, is I scan them into the machine and trace them. There's 2 ways of doing it. I'm going to show you one way in the machine. I'll show you another way that you can do it. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer so you can see this a little bit better. If I'm up above the scan cut, it doesn't leave a shadow. Okay, so here's my tree that it's scanned. Now the next screen on the scan and cut is going to ask me to trace this tree. All right, so that's what these buttons are, is so that we can trace. The first button, oops, so let's go back. The first button just traces the outside edge. But you saw that there was a bunch of detail on the inside of the tree, so I want that all to cut also. So I'm going to choose the second one, which traces everything on the outside and the inside. So I'm going to choose the second button and trace the tree. And I don't know if you can see it real well, but it got darker. Can you see on all the little details traced in here? Okay. But so did some of this other stuff, but we can fix that in a little bit. So what I'm going to do first, before I go any further, is I'm going to crop this and take out as much of the gunk that I don't want as I can get out. And then we'll have to take a little bit more out manually, but that's fine. You can do quite a bit of editing in here, so I'm going to get as much of it out of here as I can get. That looks pretty good, but see, I'm going to have some stuff down here at the bottom. And then, like the birds, I don't need the birds right now, or the words. So there's some words and stuff that I don't need. So we'll get rid of that in a minute. And then I'm going to click, okay, I want to turn my page so I don't lose where I'm at. I'm going to click Preview. Take a look at it, and I think I'm okay with all of this. This little button that says Ignore Object Size sometimes comes into play here, because what it does is, let me turn this camera just a little bit so it's a little straighter. What it does is allows me to maybe crop out some of the small details that are in there. Now, but for this particular tree, it didn't do make much difference. Lots of times what I'll do is I'll start making this a bigger number. And sometimes it'll take out some of this other extraneous stuff. Now, it did take a little bit of the words out. And it's taken a little bit of the birds out. I'm looking to make sure it didn't take anything out that I wanted, though. So it's better. So that's what that's for. Sometimes if there's a bunch of stuff, little stuff, that you really don't want around your design, you can get rid of it by using that object, what do they call it? Ignore object size. So I've made this quite a lot bigger. Let's see what happens if I keep going. Because I'm noticing that the outlines are gone around some of the words that are over here. There's like a line of words here and stuff. And let's see if it does anything more. That's about it, I think. But that did take out some of the little words, which is really awesome. But it did take something out down here too, so I don't know that I like that. So let's go back again. Yeah, it took out some of the stuff. So we can get rid of the rest of it, but I think it's okay now down here. So I'm going to click OK. So that's what that's for. If you've got some like little words or something like really close to your design and you couldn't get rid of it by, I use whiteout lots of times to take it out instead, then you can use that and it will get rid of it. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And at that point, it's traced. That's all there was to it. Isn't that easy? So you can take your applique patterns, put them in here, trace them, and then we can do a little cleanup later. There's a couple ways to do this. We're going to clean it up in the machine. So you can save it in the machine. That's what we're going to do tonight. But what I often do is I click this button. And what this button does is sends the design to the software directly from the machine. Remember, these machines are wireless. And I send it to the software because then I can clean it up on a bigger screen than on the scan and cut. And I often do that, and I find that extremely helpful. Especially, for instance, like Doris's patterns, I do quite a bit of these, and she hand draws these patterns. And what I find is I have, and you'll see when we go to clean this up, I'm going to put this up in front of you. Sometimes when she draws, you know, she might lift her pen a little bit, and then there'll be a break in the word or in the outline, and then the program will actually, or the machine will trace on the inside and the outside of the pattern, and so then I get double images of this pattern. So you'll see that in a few minutes because we're going to get some double images and you'll see what I mean. It's easier to clean those up on the screen of the computer in the computer program sometimes than it is in the machine, because the machine screen obviously is much smaller. This one is very doable. I've done this one many times on the computer, on the machine, so we're going to do it this way. We're going to have a class on the Canvas software next month, just to get you acquainted with the software, so that if you're running into scanning issues that you need to do some cleanup, it's much easier in the software. Okay, so we'll do that the last Sunday of June is when we're going to do that. Okay, just to get you ready to start with the software. So that's when I would choose this option. I am going to save this one in the machine. So we'll go back to the machine, and I'm going to, oops, second, it's thinking. Doesn't like to do two things at once. Remember what number it is. It's number 9. And I'm going to go ahead and eject my mat and set it over here. And I often, when I'm doing this, when I'm getting ready to clean up, I like to hang on to my pattern in front of me. Will the software work on a Mac? Yes, it will, Jackie. However, there are 2 versions of the software. It is called Canvas Workspace. There's 2 versions. There's one that is on the browser online, and it looks the same whether you have a Mac or a PC. There is also a version of the software you can download to your computer. They have a version for the Mac and a version for the PC. The version on the Mac and the version on the PC look different. So that's the only thing that's hard for me when I teach, because I have a PC, and if you have a Mac, it's going to look little different. I generally use the software online, then it looks the same for everyone. So yes, you can get the software, both of them. Okay, so I'm going to look at my tree here, and this is the one we traced. So actually, I'm done with this part, so I'm just going to hit the little house button and click OK. And then I'm going to go retrieve my pattern, because I saved it in the machine. And then I'm going to go number 9. It was number 9 that I did. Okay. So now we need to do some cleanup. And because I know, just looking at this, and I don't know if you can see it or not, can you see that some of the lines look darker than others? And I normally know that's what's going to happen with her drawings. By using the object, the ignore object, you notice that we don't have the words right here, which is good. And then it got rid of some of the stuff down here and some of the stuff down here, but I still get rid of that too. But I can see that there's some dark lines, so I know, because I'm doing a bunch of these, that means there's double lines there, and some of those lines I don't want. So let's zoom in a little bit on this, and then we can look around at it. So if you look close at it, hopefully if I bring this up a little bit, you can kind of see it. Can you see that there are 2 lines? It's probably a little hard to see on the screen, but there's a double line. So in other words, it traced on the inside of the line and on the outside of the line, because there was probably a break in her drawing, and that's what causes that. So that means that part of it is like double traced. So to get rid of some of that, I'm going to click OK. I got out of the zoom, and what I do then is I just want to get rid of the stuff I don't want in this drawing. I've got my regular drawing in front of me so that I know what it's supposed to look like. And I can go into Edit, and I can use these little buttons. See the little select buttons here? These 2 little arrows? I can click these, and I can select portions of the design, and it puts a red line around it. I do not want this little thing, because that was part of the logo at the bottom of her paper. So I'm going to hit the little trash can, and I'm going to get rid of that. Then it selected another little bit of that. I don't want that either. I'm going to click the little trash can and get rid of it. And then this was one of the birds, because I did trace the birds later on something else. So we're going to get rid of that too, because I just want the tree tonight. Okay, now this little piece that I added right here, that is part of the inside of the tree. I want that. So I don't want to, I'm going to hit the select button and find another piece that I don't want. The pieces that it's selecting right now are the insides of the tree. I can tell the little pieces it's trying to select. And I want those items. Okay, so this is the whole tree on the outside. And let's see if there's some more pieces here. Okay, that piece is one I don't want. Let's look at it a little bit bigger. See, it was a little portion of this piece up here. But see, it traced on both sides of the line. So I don't need that one. Let's get rid of that one. And let's see here. Let's go back down to the select. Let's see. What can we, whoops, come on. Oops, there must be another piece here. Sometimes I just have to move things away and look. I have an undo button, just so you know. There's an undo. I love undo. So you can put it back where it was. That's the piece I want to keep. Let's keep going here. All right, let's see. This one was the big piece, right? Yeah, that was the big piece. We want to keep that. Undo. Then let's go to the next piece. What's this? Okay, so see, that was a partial trace. That piece was a partial trace. I'm going to get rid of that. And now let's keep hitting the little select button. So those are all the inside pieces of the tree. And that's the whole tree. See, that was the whole tree. So that's the whole trace. That's the one I want. So what it did is it partially traced both sides of the line. And I think I've got it cleaned up. So let's make it bigger again. I can make it up to 400%. And then you can look at your scan, all the tracing and see if it looks good. And this one looks really good. So this one I have, like I said, I have done in the machine. It's very hard to do it on the machine when the screen's so small, but they have made in the newer machines, you can go up 400%. I think they added that in the DX models. I'm not sure that the CM models have that bigger percentage because it does make it harder to see what you're doing. So I have done a lot of cleanup in the software, okay? So I want to start working with the software a little bit, so I figured next time we'll talk about all the basics so everybody can get it downloaded and get a little bit acquainted with it before we actually do a project in the software, okay? All right, so I think I'm happy with that. I cleaned it up. I've got all the unwanted pieces out of there, but I had to use the select keys to just go through all the little pieces that were there, and then I hit the trash can for anything I didn't want, okay? So does that make sense to everybody? That portion of it that I just went through, cleaned it up, used my select key to go through and find the pieces I wanted. If you needed to move something out of the way to check it, hit the undo button up here and it'll put it back where it was, okay? That was one of the things I highlighted on my notes. Make sure you use the select buttons, because if you just start poking on things, it's very easy to move them out of the way and not realize you've moved them. Okay, once you're done editing, so we're all done editing, we got all that extra stuff out of that we don't want. I want to make sure that this stays put, and I want the whole thing grouped together. So to group a design, remember these were the individual select tools. This will allow me to select all the little boxes. So I'm going to hit select all, and you can either use the cropping version of it, or you can just select all, which is the second button. So I'm going to use select all, so the whole thing, all of it's red over here. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK one more time. And whoops, I'm not sure I got it. Just a second. Let's try it again. Yep, I got it. Select all, and then we're going to go back to Object Edit, and then the Group button is right here. It's right above the tool wrench. So we're going to hit Group, and now there's just one red box around the entire design. Okay? So now I know that my tree, if I move it around, it's all going to go together, because I always end up with like a branch over here somewhere. Okay? So now my tree is ready to cut. So there's a lot, it's very easy to do cleanup on the screen if it doesn't require too much detail. If it's very detailed and there's a lot of little pieces, Sometimes it's easier to do it on the computer screen. So we will talk more about that. Okay. Now, what I want to do, though, is I want to save this, because remember the original scan we made? It was all weird, so we don't want to keep this. We want to keep this one. So I'm going to hit OK one more time, and then there's another Save button. So I'm going to hit Save. I'm going to save it back to the machine, and it's going to come up and says includes a group pattern. Yeah, that's okay. And now it's going to ask me, do you want it to be a new pattern, or do you want to overwrite the old one? I just want to overwrite the old one because I don't need that one. So I'm going to hit Overwrite. So now I have that saved in the machine with the corrections that we've made. Takes a second for that to go. Okay. And it's still the same number. So now we have the corrected version saved in the machine, so when we need it again, we can cut it anytime. All right, so it's all ready to cut now. Again, Doris always does all of her designs mirrored. So I do not have to, remember how we had to last time, because we were cutting with the fabric side down, we hit the edit button and then object edit, and then we use this little mirroring button. But tonight we don't need to do that because Doris always has these mirrored already. So I'm not going to use that tonight. All right, so we're getting ready to cut. I'm going to hit OK one more time. I'm going to stay on this screen for a second because we're going to put our fabric on the mat. Second, I'm going to make sure I don't lose my pattern piece that I need next time. Okay, so I'm going to get my fabric mat. This is that fabric mat. Well, I'll move the camera over here so you can see what I'm going to do. So here's my fabric mat. I'm going to take the plastic off. And I have my prepared fabric. This is actually a batik, and I have prepared it with the Heaton Bond Ultra on the back. I am going to leave the paper on. Sometimes it wants to come off, so if it acts a little loose when you go to put it on the mat, just remove it so that it won't get caught in the blade. Okay, this usually, the Ultra, usually stays on pretty good, so I think this will be fine. So I'm just going to put my fabric on my mat. Fabric side down, and oops, second here. I'm going to move this back a little bit, and I'm going to use my little favorite tool. This is my brayer, and use the brayer to adhere it well to the mat. This is a pretty intricate design, so we want to make sure that it's not going to move around on us. Okay. And as you can see, I just put it on. Doesn't matter where, because remember, we have a scanner. So we're going to scan this. I'm going to put this back in the machine. I'll move my camera here in a second. So I put this in the machine, and I just put it, put it on the mat wherever. I'm going to go up here on the screen, and I'm going to use my, whoops, see if I can get a little bit closer so you can see better. Okay. I'm going to use my scanning button. And I'm going to scan so I know that I'm going to get my tree on here. So I'm going to hit Start. And it's going to scan it in. And then I can move my design to be on top of my fabric. So my design's kind of hanging out up here, so I'm going to take my design, I'm going to pull it down so that it fits well on my fabric. Like that. Okay? I love the scanner. This has been so wonderful because when they first came out with this, and it was like having the scanner that's in our sewing machine, it was awesome. So now we can really, really do fussy cutting, and we can do anything we want. All right, so I got my tree on here. I'm going to hit OK at this point. I'm going to turn my page so I don't miss a step. Okay? And I want to cut, correct? So we're going to please select. I'm going to click Cut. Okay? Now we need to look at our settings. And if you look here, can you see where it says pressure and stuff? There's like lines here. It's telling me that don't forget to put your blade in the machine because it knows the blade is not in here. I like smart machines to help me out. So for this fabric, remember we're using a bonding agent. So let me move this back. So we're going to be using for my machine, the DX model, I'm going to be using the black auto blade with, I have my fabric blade, one just for my fabric. This one is the one I'm going to use for this because I've got the bonding agent on it. If you have one of the older machines, you're going to use the teal turquoisey colored one, and you're going to put your blade on 4 or 5, depending on your fabric. You may have to do a little test cutting. I put my blade on 4 or 5 for fabric, and then I also put my pressure, this is for the old machines, the pressure on either 4 or 5. You will have to do a little test cut. When I do the Applique, especially, I always had a test cut for that, okay? So I am going to, I've got my auto blade in there, and it's the one I use for my fabric. Does everybody understand what to do with the older machines, which blade settings you need to use? Hopefully that made sense to everybody. I've got it on cut. So see now, the pressure says auto, and my half cut is off, so I want to make sure that all my settings are correct here. So I am going to turn this down just a little bit to 2. This is quite a intricate design. So when I'm doing an intricate cut like this, I like to turn it down. And I am going to put my cut pressure, I don't have a manual blade in here, I'm just going to put it back to 0. The auto cut is on, the cut pressure is on auto for the auto blade, and it knows what blade is in the machine, okay? Also, on these machines, make sure that half cut is turned off, because we don't want to cut halfway through, we want it to cut all the way through, okay? So I'll hit OK. I'm happy with my settings. Turn it down a little bit. Takes about 4 minutes to cut this. The pressure's on auto, the speed's 2, and the half cut is off. So I know it's going to cut OK because I've already cut it, so I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to hit start. You can hit test if you want, and you can do a little test cut. And pull this back so you can watch it cut. It's kind of fun to watch this cut. It's pretty intricate. This is a good time for questions. Does anybody have questions about what we've talked about so far? About the blades, the blade settings, the type of bonding agent that I'm using? Is this all making sense to everybody? Hopefully you're all still out there. You know, I can't see anymore if you are like doing like little thumbs ups and stuff. I can't see that anymore because it used to show up on my screen and it doesn't. I wish that they would do that. I was going to see if I could find it on my phone. They don't put the little like hearts and all that stuff on our screen anymore, which is kind of bad. Actually, I liked that because I could tell you were there faster. I must still be on because I can see myself. I'm there. Okay, so we're cutting. It does take a little bit to cut this, and it's pretty intricate. But I've cut this tree quite a few times. How do people do these without a scan and cut machine? Mary Ann, how Doris does this? I have stood there and watched her. She sits there and traces all those pattern pieces onto a piece of Heaton bond. She also uses Heaton bond onto the back of it, and then she sits there with a little pair of scissors and cuts them out with a pair of scissors. I think she's nuts. Aren't the scan and cuts awesome that you can do this? It's just so awesome. Now I have noticed that a little bit, can you see a little bit of my papers come off? I think it'll be okay though. Usually it'll pull a little bit of it up, but it's usually all right. Especially if you slow it down. But yeah, these are just awesome, the way this works. And if you want to do these intricate pieces, I mean, I just love doing this gal's stuff. And if you go to her website, she just has a lot of, most of her stuff is nature, you know, like landscapes and birds, and she does horses and just beautiful work. And they're all hand, you know, drawn. So I really enjoy doing her pieces. And eagles, all kinds of stuff. But I told her that I cut these out with the Scan and Cut, and she evidently bought one years ago when they very first came out, so she had problems learning it. And so she just kind of gave up on it, and I told her to come down and I will help her do it. Yes. So see, Marianne, I like to use that little pattern maker program to do my cross stitch too. I know, isn't that funny? But this is so wonderful to be able to cut out like this. Okay, so we're all done. There's a couple of, do you see a little bit of the paper that's come off? Okay, so let's see how we did. So I'm going to pull this up. Might need my little spatula. Let me find my spatula here. I love my new little, I got this little set of tools from my new Scan and Cut. So it has all the tools in this little bag. So let's get the spatula out. It's easier to get it out off the mat. There we go. All right, let's see how we did. Now, since this is a little bit intricate, take your time pulling it off the mat. You don't want to rip it. Looks like it cut really well. Yep. Looks like it cut well. Let's clean it up and get the rest of it off up here. Okay. So I'm going to take my little spatula and kind of pull it up. And I remember when I took this off before, you have to kind of be careful because there's a lot of little bits and pieces to this that you don't want to rip your fabric. That bonding agent on the back really helps keeping it from getting ripped. Now see, I've got a little bit of my mat. Can you see a little bit of my mats on here? So sometimes when I do these real intricate ones, I have to change my adhesive sheet afterwards because there's a lot of cutting. So I'm going to kind of use my spatula to get some of these little leaves off. And it's well stuck on there, so I don't have to worry about it coming off. But I did take some of my mat off, so I'm going to see if I can get some of that plastic off of there. Might be able to stick that back on the mat. Okay. So yes, you will take some of your mat off. That is not abnormal at all. That plastic stuff. I wish they would come out with a mat that did not have to have the plastic sheet on it, that it was really super sticky. So I don't know if if there's going to be ever something like that or not. I'd really like that because it's hard when you're doing these real intricate stuff. You always are pulling these applique mats off. So here's another little piece that I'm going to stick back down. There we go. Okay, it's getting closer. Remember, I just took the paper off when I got all done before because it got all stuck. There we go. So I'm getting closer. Look at there. So there's my tree. So see, I've got a little bit of my mat on there. Can you see the little sliver there? So I'll just pull it off. There's a little bit up here too. I've had this trouble when I cut this because it is quite intricate and there's a lot of little cuts and it likes to take the plastic off with it when you pull it up. There's a little piece right here. Can you see it? A little piece on that end there. But you can see how well this cut. It cut perfectly well. I just have to do a little bit of cleanup on it. But isn't that pretty? There's my tree. I think it did really well. What do you think? So there's my tree. So then there was other pieces to this pattern. There was several other pieces to it. Like there was like hills and the sun and the lake and stuff. So then I would do that also. You know, before I would put it together, I'd have to cut out all the other pieces and trace them just like I traced this. So let's see if we can get the rest of these off here. There we go. These little pieces. Now sometimes I have to stop when I'm doing this kind of stuff. I have to stop. You know, I often get these a lot of fuzzies and pieces of fabric on my mat. So I often have to take my baby wipes and clean off my mat when I'm doing this. Okay, so this little piece here, that bigger piece, I'm going to try to stick that kind of back on here again. Let's see if I can get it back on. Because I need to use my mat a couple more times tonight. That'll help. There we go. We'll stick it back on there. I knew I had a couple spots that were missing. So I'll use it a couple more times and then I'll probably remove it. But it looks pretty good. We'll put our tumblers on in different spots. Okay, so what do you think of the tree? Isn't that cool? See how intricate that was? And how well it cut? It's amazing how well this machine traces. In fact, I use this machine to trace things and then clean them up in the software all the time. Even other things that I'm not going to use for just cutting, things that I'm going to use for other things, I'll scan them in the machine because it's a really good scanner, and then clean them up in the software. So, but isn't that cool? So there's the tree. This has got the bonding agent on it, so I'm going to use this for permanent bond. Okay, so I got 2 trees cut out now. Now, let's talk about the other option. We're going to do the same thing with the other type of fabric that does not have the bonding agent on it. So always put the cover, just a word of warning, always put the cover over that super sticky mat. Ask me how I know. Because I have stuck so many things to that mat, and then you cannot get it off except for just scrubbing it with water. That's the only thing you can do to get it off. Because it's really sticky. Okay. So, in June, we're going to do that little table runner with the tumblers. So I thought, well, let's cut out the tumblers. These little tumblers. Kimberbell has a set of rulers, and one of the rulers that comes with one of the little rulers that comes with it is this little tumbler. This is the tumbler that you need to do this project. If you don't have the rulers, I'm going to give you my trace of this little tumbler because I just traced around it so that I could sew it together, so I could cut them out with my scanning cut. So I just traced around it with a piece of paper, on a piece of paper with a pen. So here's my tracing of that little tumbler. I just took it and traced around it. Okay? If you have the tumbler, you can always just cut them out with the tumbler template. It's nice to have. I've cut them out that way, but I like to cut things with my scanning cut. So I just traced it, and here's my pattern that I'm going to use. So I need to scan this. And we're going to do this in 2 weeks. We're going to start putting this together, and I'm going to cut out my tumblers for my project that we're going to do that. Okay, whoops, second here, let's put this over here. So here's my pattern. I'm going to put that back in that scanning mat again. We're going to do the same thing we just did for the tree. This one's going to be a little easier because it's not quite so detailed, is it? So we're going to go ahead and load the mat. Second here. Go back to the home. I'm going to go back to home so I'm back ready to do the scanning. I'm going to load my mat. Okay, so here's the little tumbler. Okay. And what I'll do is when I put the tumbler stuff up on the group, it was the little freebie, from Kimberbell. I'll put up on the group in the Dropbox. I'll put up the little the little FCM file for this tumbler. Okay, so you can cut it out. So I got to make this FCM, right? So I got to get this to be scanned. So I'm going to go back up here, and we're going to start just like we did before. Give me a second. I want to make sure I don't miss a step in my notes. So I'm going to hit scan. Oops. I have trouble with my fingers. I always have to use the little pen. I'm going to scan to cut data because I want to make data. It's also in black and white, so I'm going to leave it in black and white mode and hit start. And start one more time. We got it scanned. It's thinking. Okay, so there's our tumbler in the middle there. I want to trace it. Now this one, I just need the outside edges. That's all I want. So I'm going to choose the first button instead because I just need the outside edges of my tumbler. But as you can see, there was some little gunk on the bottom of the mat and up here at the top. So I'm going to crop right up to the tumblers so we can get rid of all that stuff we don't want. Like that. And that looks pretty good. I don't think we need to do any fixing on that. We're going to preview it. Looks pretty good. That one was nice and clean. When I drew that, I was very careful about making a nice black mark. I used like a Sharpie. So if you need to draw something, use those real thin black Sharpie markers, because they make a pretty consistent line and it makes it easier to trace. So I'm going to hit OK. I think I'm happy with that. And then we're back to our saving screen. So in this case, I'm going to save it to my machine. Again, if I wanted to use my software, I would save it back to this. I would save it to this, and it would send it directly to my software. Okay? If you've got it set up for being wireless. That's another thing that we will talk about in the basic software class, is how to make sure your machine is set up to talk to the software. Okay? So we'll do that also. But I'm gonna save it in the machine. And then I'm going to unload my mat after it's gets done saving here. And this is number 10, so I'm going to unload the mat. And put that aside. And then we're going to hit the little house button to go back to home. And OK. I need to retrieve that pattern we just made. I'm going to retrieve my data. I'm going to go back to the machine, and I'm looking for number 10. So I need to go down. So here's my number 10 right here. Here's my little tumbler right here. I'm going to click on my tumbler. Okay, looks pretty good. I think I did pretty well scanning it. Now, I want, somebody's always asking me, can I cut more than one piece of fabric at the same time? Of course you can. So I need 5 tumblers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I needed 5 tumblers. So here's 5 pieces of fabric. They're all prepared, again, with the Terreal magic, because there's no bonding agent on these. And I'm going to get my mat here and pull this back so you see it. I'm just going to put all my fabric on at the same time. This can be cut either right side up or upside down. It doesn't matter. I usually just put these right side up. I like to put the bonding agent up when I'm using it, but sometimes I just cut these right side up. Now I might not be able to get all 5 of them on here. Might have to do 2, maybe like 4 of them, and then cut 1 more. If not, we'll just cut 4. The pieces are almost as big as the mat, so let's just do 4. So I'll put 4 on here. So I'm going to put the other one down here. We'll just do 4 of them tonight. Make sure they're all pushed down well. And I'm going to get my little favorite tool, get my brayer. I have brayers on order. If you're looking for the brayers, I happen to be out of them, and I've got them on order. They should be here this week. I do a lot of fabric, so the brayer works really well when you're working with fabric. Okay? Make sure it's down really well. Now, if you don't have that Terreal magic on here, the fabric will not work well. I'm going to load my mat. Okay. I think it's all on there really well. I think they'll be okay. All right. So now, I would like to do all 4 of these at the same time. So, to do that, where'd my little pointer go? Here we go. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go into Edit and Object Edit. And the second button with the little plus sign right here is where you can have more items. So I'm going to click that, and I want there to be 4 total items, and then I'm going to click OK. So they're all kind of sitting over here on the side together. So the first thing I need to do then is to make sure I got a couple corners that aren't staying down here, so I better give it a good push down. I am going to click OK first, and then I am going to go one more time to click OK, and I need to scan because I need to know where my fabric is. So I'm going to click the scanning button and start. So we're going to scan this in. Looks like I got a little bit of tree left on there, but I think it's okay. Can you see I've got a little piece of tree down in here, down in the middle. Okay, so now we know where our fabric is. So I'm just going to grab one of my tumblers and pull it up to my fabric. Okay, pull this one down here. May have to do a little bit more adjustment. Let's get them kind of close. And then we will do the final adjustments. So that we make sure that they're going to cut right on the fabric. Didn't make my fabric any too big, did I? I needed to make it just a little bigger. I like to leave a little bit around so that I don't have to worry if I'm going to hit it or not. I'm a little bit scant on some of these pieces, so I just cut up some scraps I had. So okay, so I've got all of my tumblers on my fabric. Okay, I'm going to click OK. Now we need to talk about the blade again. So remember, there's no bonding agent on here. So we need to switch our blades, and we're going to take out the black blade. For those of you with the older machine, you're just going to use your same blade. And let me check my blade settings. I wrote that in the back. Give me a second here. So with the bonding agent, for those of you with the CM series that you have to set your own blades, again, it was the blade's on 4 or 5, and the pressure's on 4 or 5. Normally what I use is blade 5, pressure 4. But that doesn't always work, so it's usually 4 or 5 on either one. If you are using the older machines with this blade, I think I put it on 3 or 4, and the pressure on 3 or 4. So again, without the bonding agent, there's less thickness. So you may have to do a couple of test cuts to see what works the best. But for those of us with the DX, we don't have to worry about that. But we are going to use this tan blade. This is the only time I use this is when I'm cutting fabric. That's what it's for. It's the thin fabric blade, and it's only for cutting fabric with no bonding agent. So this is when I'm going to use this. So this is a tan one, and I'm going to put this one in. Okay, so this is the one I use for the fabric without anything except the Ethereal Magic. I am ready to cut. I've got the blade in there. I'm going to hit please select, cut, and then I'm going to just go for it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be okay, so we're going to hit start and see how it goes. I have it fairly slow. When I cut fabric, I often slow my machine down. Somewhere 2 or 3 is usually fine. And then the other thing I would tell you is if you're going to be doing multiple colors of fabric on the same mat, make sure that it's all similar weight fabrics and similar types. Don't put like flannel and cottons on, because remember, the blade won't know what to do. It's a different size. So make sure you're cutting similar items on the same mat. Same thing goes with paper, to be quite honest. Now can you see down here? I'm going to put this down again, I'm sorry. Watch it cut. Can you see that the fabric is not scooting around at all? Because it's almost like it's cutting paper. See, it's not even moving. And I have people calling me all the time that my fabric is just scooting all over, but they never put any Ethereal Magic on it. So here's our little, let's see how we did with our tumblers. This one I think I can get my finger under, so. Ooh, look at there. There's my tumbler. I'm going to take my little spatula to get it off. So there's one of my tumblers for my little table runner. Let's take these all off and see if they all cut well. That one cut well. There's the second one. Here's the yellow one. And this one looks good too. Okay. And then I would have to cut one more because I needed 5. So I did have to cut one extra one on the mat. There we go. And that is cut without any bonding agent on it. But that Ethereal Magic, when I found that, one of my students brought it in, and she wanted to cut hexagons for English paper piecing, and she didn't want any, like Heaton bond on it. And she wanted to cut them all out with her with her scan and cut, and that's how we found it. She found the stuff, it was new, and she brought it in, and she says, well, this is supposed to be really stiff, she said. So we tried it, and it was just perfect. See those beautiful clean cuts you get on the edges. So there's my little tumblers. Isn't that awesome? So then that's what we're going to do so I will put this up. So if some of you have the orange populars, I think this comes with the rectangle set. This is the little tumbler you need for the project. If you don't, I will put up this little FCM. If you have a scan and cut, I'll put the FCM up so that you can cut it out with this. Okay? So that is cutting without the bonding agent, with the bonding agent, and then we did the scanning. So if you do, all you have is a paper pattern, that's how you get your designs. And you can see how easy it is to cut stuff. Okay, let me get this out of the way. I use this method all the time. I love to cut my appliques this way so I don't have to cut them by hand. All right, I'm going to turn this around. Were there any questions? See if I can get the camera to behave here. There we go. It's hard. I don't know why. It's something about my table in here, so it's harder to get it to behave in here. So are there any questions about the cutting? Did this help everybody for some of the questions that I've been getting, so that you can get your pattern pieces and your applique pieces cut now? But go get some Tarot Magic on our website. So I've got this up on the website. I'm out of right now, the Brayers, but they'll be up there. But I've got 4 or 5 bottles of this in stock. So if you don't have this stuff, it's awesome if you need to cut some just fabric. And that's how I cut out my little, I brought it in and I cut out my little tumblers for this little project. So we'll do that in a couple weeks. That way. It was fun. I hadn't cut them out that way. I've always used the template before, and I thought, well, I'm going to try it on here, and it worked great. So, okay. So, also, the other thing that I put up on the group that you might have seen is that after I chose a Kimberbell quilt to do for July, Kimberbell decided to announce this beautiful, cute little mystery quilt that they're going to do. It's called Love Notes. So I do have that up there. So if anybody's interested in doing Love Notes, we are going to have there's going to be fabric kits available if you want it. What you'd have to do to do it, if people have been asking, is you just need to buy the pattern. And then I would recommend the embellishment kit, because then you can use your own fabric, or there is a backing kit and a fabric kit that you can get. So it's you can buy as little or as much as you want. So, but we are going to be doing that. And then what happens when they come in August 3rd, you can come in and you can get your first month, or your first week, I should say. And then every week after that, I will give you another love note. So you won't get the whole pattern at once. You just get 1 week at a time. Okay? So I thought it was cute because they said that everybody gets a love note every week. So we'll keep those at the store, and you just have to come in and get it. If you're from far away, I can mail them to you. They're small, so I can put them in the mail to you. So, okay? All right, so if there's anything, any questions about the cutting or anything, next week will be the software class on sessions on software. And then the next 2 Sundays in June, we'll be making this cute little table runner. And the last Sunday in June, will be another scan and cut class, but we're going to talk about that software to get you started with that. Because I've got some projects I'd like to make, but we kind of need to have the software. So I want you to be a little more comfortable with it before I start doing just projects with it. So, because I like the software. So anyway, is there any other questions? I think there's some cool comments. Thank you, people. So I missed last week. I took a week off. I thought I was going to have to go do a bunch of cemeteries, and I didn't have to only had to do 2. So, so I would have been able to teach last week, but it was nice to have a week off too. So, okay. So if there's any questions, I will be home here for 2 days doing that Kimberbell class, and then I'll be back at the store on Wednesday. So you can email me or message me through Facebook if you have questions. And I will see you next week on Sessions on Software, because we're going to do red work next week. And I can't wait to show you the second project I made with my red work. So it's going to be really fun to do. So everybody, which software? It's going to be PEP, Nancy. The Perfect Embroidery Pro is what we're going to do on Sessions on Software, and it'll be at 6 o'clock next Sunday. Okay? Alrighty. So I think we're done, and if you have any questions, let me know, and have a good evening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Good night.